23 years, 7-time Super Bowl champ, Tom Brady is now joining us live. Tom, as always, it's great to see you. How are things?
What's up, Colin? NFL season week 2. Let's go.
I was saying about J.J. McCarthy, let's start, you're a Michigan guy, is that he's got a little Baker Mayfield. I thought you were a guy, like when I think emotional players, Baker's a guy that when Baker gets into a run, his chest puffs out, his velocity increases, his accuracy increases. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. I don't feel that with you. I didn't feel that. I don't think Michael Penix is that. But when I watched JJ, fourth quarter hits Justin Jefferson on the sideline. Tom, it was like I gave him a B12 shot. He puffed out three. And take me through that about how emotion affected you, positively or negative, because I think JJ is an emotional player.
I absolutely love it when I see that type of emotion. I think it brings you to kind of higher level of focus. Stands in there, takes a hit, makes a great throw. And that game is all about emotional, being at kind of a feverish pitch, but also controlled. And I could get there emotionally in a way that probably didn't look like it on my face. I think JJ just expresses that a little bit more. I always think, like, I watch golf a lot and I see these golfers hit these hole-in-ones and they like tip their cap and they're like, and I'm like, man, I'd be going crazy. And I love Ryder Cup style golf where guys are fist bumping. And I just think that emotion, when you're electrified as a player, you play with the most focus, the most anticipation. Everything ends up being at the highest sense of kind of the alertness. So I love that aspect of his game. You know, he's just got to keep that going for a long time. That, I believe, is part of your conditioning and that ability to elevate your teammates as well in those big moments. And I love seeing that from a Michigan man.
So we all know during your dynasty, there were some things we could bank on. Belichick's defensive coaching, your efficiency. You guys always had a better than average run game. Lost in a lot of your success. The two winningest teams the last 25 years have been Green Bay and your teams. Why?
Wow.
Why is that? And I would argue this, offensive line play. The Packers almost never have a bad O-line, and because of Dante Scarnecchia, you didn't. So Mahomes now is in a different situation. He has now been blown out twice in Super Bowls, once by you, because of deterioration of O-line play. So their tackles, Tom, in week 1 graded incredibly poorly. So you didn't have a lot of that deterioration, but go to games in which, I remember that Giants Super Bowl, the first play of the game, I was with a friend and the Giants rushed through and I said, Tom's in trouble. They lost all 4 battles up front. When the offensive line is deteriorating, go to your career. What does it do for a great quarterback?
Well, I always say you control the line of scrimmage, you control the game. So when you control both sides of the line of scrimmage, you have a huge opportunity for success. And it takes someone like Patrick Mahomes to kind of have that Mahomes magic and pull the rabbit out of his hat in order to keep his team in the game. And he's had a lot of unique offensive line combinations. Patrick has. They've been trying to find a left tackle at that position for a long time. In that offense. And it's a challenge because it affects the way the quarterback feels like, can I really sit back there and do I trust my teammates up front to be able to protect me long enough so that I could see down the field to read the coverage and then make a very decisive, accurate throw. So he's got to find a way to overcome that, and he has in so many ways. I mean, Patrick had, even though despite his stats being down a little bit last year, I still think he had an incredible season. They won 15 games, and you see that throw on the run right there. There's only a few guys that could make that throw. Patrick's one of them, and he is so poised back there. And I think they're actually with thinking about that offensive line, with the rookie Simmons, with Sue Matai, who's in there as a second-round pick from last year, Creed Humphrey, there, and Trey Smith at right guard. They're they're set up to have a pretty good offensive line as they gel and grow together. So that will be great for Patrick to feel like he has some confidence to stand back there, because the Super Bowl, look, so much of that game ended up being, can we block the Eagles defensive front? And that Eagles defensive front played their tail off that game. And really the Chiefs had no chance when they were rushing that well.
I remember years ago, I've referenced this several times. You were talking to Jay Glazer, and I think it was after a practice because everybody else was clear. And you said you were still in New England. You said, Jay, I've seen every coverage. You can beat me, but you're not going to fool me. I've seen every one. And you've been very vocal about the pre-snap operational side has deteriorated. Yeah. Sure. Is there a quarterback, though, right now in the league that you look at pre-snap and you're like, yeah, you can see it. I can see he's operating at a different level. Is there one or two guys, and I would imagine they're older, that you look and you can tell from head movement, you can tell from the directions that you can tell pre-snap are elite?
Well, Matt Stafford just jumps to the top of my mind. And I'll tell you why. When you see someone do these no-look passes like he did last week, he knows where the defense is going to be aligned. So he knows, okay, he sees a certain coverage. He knows the high-low combination that's going to work against that coverage. So he stares at the low defender, draws the coverage to the low defender, stares at the low defender, and then throws it to the higher receiver in the combination. So that is an elite level of play in his ability to recognize defenses and then make those type of throws. So he's the one, and again, he's a veteran quarterback. He's played a lot of football. I think Patrick really understands the games and combinations like that as well. But you're right. There's just not a lot. There's a lot more, I would say, physical development happening at a younger age, but less, I would say, mental, emotional development from quarterbacks. And, I had a chance to talk to Andy Reid about that, had a chance to talk to Patrick Mahomes about that this week. They said, look, Patrick flat out said, I can't thank Alex Smith enough for everything that he did for me. All I did was ask him questions in the meeting room my first year. And I look at my first year. That's all I did with Drew Bledsoe. Aaron Rodgers had 3 years to sit behind Brett Favre. Eli Manning sat behind Kurt Warner. And there's a lot of guys, and I would say a lot of successful players that weren't kind of thrown into the fire, because what happens is you can lose your confidence so fast, because when the real games are happening, the blitzes are coming, and you don't understand protection and you don't understand coverage, and you start taking hits and you start throwing interceptions, you begin to lose confidence that, hey, I don't even know how to play football. I don't know how to go down and lead our team to score points. I can't even make and complete a pass. So if you're sitting in the meeting room and learning, I actually think that's the best way to learn, because you can understand it on the board. You can understand it on the video screen. You can go out to a walkthrough, and then you can learn and practice by making a lot of, good decisions, bad decisions, without necessarily being critiqued from the outside world and losing. Look, you got PFF grading you every week, like you were just referencing there before I came on. They're grading you. And now you go as a first-year quarterback, you barely know. And now everyone's telling you suck, and it takes a while to regain your confidence. You lose your whole fan base, and it's really unfortunate. But that's very much the state of the league. And I think we've dumbed down the game in so many ways to allow for a lesser caliber developed player to get in there and lead an organization.
So, I always had this theory that quarterbacking should be easier now. You have personal coaching, 7-on-7 camps. Guys like you and Drew Bledsoe and Troy Aikman have told me, like, I literally had 8 high school games a year. You're like, I had 40 starts, including high school. Well, guys now have 10,000 snaps by the time they're 14 years old. So I've always said, as a sports commentator, I used to give guys 3 years. My argument now is Thanksgiving year 2, the GM, the coach, the coordinator need to go upstairs in a room privately, raise their hands, yes or no. And I don't care where you drafted him. I would give Caleb 11 more weeks, Caleb Williams. Let's go upstairs. Is that fair? I know it sounds kind of harsh, but Thanksgiving year 2, I believe quarterbacks, if the operations aren't there, he's not the guy. Is that too soon?
Yeah, but I would argue this. You're assuming that everybody knows how to develop a quarterback. You're assuming that you're going into a program. I mean, I'm telling you, this is not, there's a lot of people who have no idea what they're doing when they're tasked with coaching a quarterback or calling an offense. So are you saying, I mean, just like we'd rank quarterbacks 1 to 32, do you rank offensive coordinators 1 to 32? Do you rank quarterback coaches 1 to 32? Well, what if you have the 32nd ranked coordinator in someone's mind, or the 32nd ranked quarterback coach? How is he getting a level of development that the guy who's first is getting? When I got to the Patriots, I sat behind Drew, who was a franchise quarterback, right? In my second year, it's training camp. And we had a very good quarterback coach named Dick Rabine. And God rest his soul. Unfortunately, he passed away in training camp and of a heart attack. And it was a very difficult loss for our team. And the way that we found a way to continue on that season is Bill Belichick became more of a quarterback coach than we ever imagined him being a quarterback coach. He was obviously a head coach, very involved in defensive game planning, but he decided to come in every week and talk to the quarterbacks about coverage. All right, guys. And he would do these big write-ups, and I still have them all because I kept everything. Tom, this is cover one. This is how they play it. This is who's responsible for who. Okay, if we line up in a bunch formation, this is how they're going to handle the bunch formation. This is why they do that. This is the weakness of that, why they do that. You shouldn't do this if this is how they cover this. Okay, this is cover two. This is how they cover. They play two variations of cover two. When they're in this variation, this is what they're trying to stop. When they're in this variation, this is what they're trying to stop. Okay, this is cover four. This is how this team uniquely plays cover four. We shouldn't line up in this formation to try to run this concept. For 1 year, for actually more years beyond that, that's how I developed and learned, defense calls a certain play. This is how we can put them in this formation and they can back the coverage off and I'll have a short throw underneath. Oh, great. I love that. Let's do that. Nobody's getting that type of development. So I learned from an offensive standpoint watching Drew and having very good offensive coaches. Then I had a defensive coach, the best one of all time, teach me how to read defenses. Then I would go out and meet with player personnel people, who are very talented. Okay, we'd go through the entire defensive lineup. Okay, these are all the things that this defense does. This is what this player does well. This player does well. This player does well. That's development. You're giving people knowledge and information that you could take to the field so that you could play with confidence and anticipation, and that would free you up to play a very aggressive style of football. So I'm saying, what if you're a quarterback and you go to a system and they don't teach you coverage? They don't teach you cover one. They don't teach you cover two. They don't teach you cover four. They don't have personnel meetings. They give you an offensive game plan and they go, all right, buddy, here you go. Figure it out. And after Thanksgiving of your second year, they're going, man, this guy just can't play anymore. He stinks. He can't read coverage. It's like, dude, what did you teach him anything? Did you groom him? Did you spend time after practice? Did you work on the physical parts of his game? Did you work on his throwing mechanics? Did you work on his drops? Did you work on the mental parts of a game? Did you understand how to help him study film better? So all these aspects, physical part about football, the physical part is one aspect. Was 199th pick in the draft because so many people were focused on a physical skill. Tom Brady, too weak, couldn't stand in the pocket. If he gets hit, he's going to go down. Lacks a really strong arm. That was kind of. But what I really understood, the mental emotional part, I could bring a consistent competitive winning attitude to the game every day, or to practice and the games every single week. Mentally, I could absorb information. You could give me, just like Belichick did, pages of notes, and I could process those things and then take them to the field and play with the anticipation. So what I lacked for maybe in a bit of physical development, I far exceeded a lot of other people in mental emotional development. And that's a hard thing to evaluate. But I'd also say there's not many people who even know what to do. It's not like they're CEOs of businesses. A lot of times they're football coaches, with all due respect. They're not running large corporations.
Right.
As Bill Parcells said, they're PE coaches a lot of times that get elevated to, coaching positions.
You know, it's funny. I said I thought Jayden Daniels last year, not because he can move or he has a nice arm. It was the best rookie quarterback I'd ever seen in terms of poise, 2-minute drill that had to play. Now, Mahomes was great, but he got to sit behind, Alex Smith, who's the great teacher. But I mean, drafted, play, now, go. And I was thinking about this, and the thing that blew me away with him, and Kingsbury was saying this in camp, and I remember being on the air saying, Cliff, slow down. You're raising the bar. Cliff's like, I can't believe this kid. And I'm like, guys, he's a rookie. Bring it down. His poise, and you know what I think about this is crazy. You had this at a very early age, your first year starting, right? Replacing Drew. Is it parenting? Like, I think it's innate that some kids have, right? Like, and I watched Jayden Daniels. I'm going to look his parents up. What did his parents do? He was so cool and calm. I don't think you can teach that. I'm watching him in week 3. There's a $1:20 on the clock. No facial expression. I'm like, okay, that's from home. That's from something. I believe the one thing you can't teach, nobody can teach it, is you are either calm in crisis or you're not. That if you're anxious in a teeth clencher, it never goes away no matter how good you can get. Explain that. You had it, Jayden had it. Did you learn it or did you have it when you were 12?
Yeah, there's poise and composure in big moments that I do think separates kind of elite performers. And I would say it's probably a high sense of self-confidence in big situations. You see that with Patrick Mahomes. I think he's probably one of my favorite ones in the NFL, right? For a lot of reasons, but you see his face in big moments and it just doesn't seem, it's a big moment for everybody else except him. And the difference is he actually looks more focused and more urgent and more ready to go. And, he's just so laser focused. And there's some guys that play like that. And there's others that look a little bit frenetic. I mean, Tiger Woods look like that in golf. The bigger the moment, the more determined he looked. That's probably the right word. Yeah. And there's certain people who have, I would say, no fear of failure. And that frees you up to go out and be your best, because people that fear failure, well, then that means they're trying to control it. Yeah. And when you feel that lack of control or lack of confidence, well, people can see it on your face. A lot of times you could see it in the eyes of the quarterback. So, Jayden is very impressive in everything that he's done. Certainly his last year was one of the great rookie seasons of any young quarterback. And again, we had him last week. We had Commanders Giants. Like, I'm always looking for, okay, that's great. What's the next step in development? And then the next step and the next step and the next step. And, from the time that you start to the time you finish, there needs to be an upward trajectory every single year based on all the things that you experience. And it's a lot of things that happen physically, mentally, emotionally over the course of a career, life, on the field, off the field, that you need to be able to grow with as you get a little bit older and you continue to develop.
All right, big game this weekend. Ratings are up. Tom, you sounded great. You sounded comfortable. And congratulations on all that stuff.
Hey, good start for everybody. You know what it is? I got the best team in the world. I got the best partner, Kevin Burkhardt, next to me, Aaron and Tom on the field, Z and Roos down in the truck along with everybody else. And I love my team at Fox. I know we're just going to keep getting better. We're going to stay humble. We're going to stay hungry. We're just going to keep working as hard as we can to show up for one another and try to provide the viewer with the best possible experience. And this week, America's game of the week, 4:25 Sunday, Eagles at Chiefs. Couldn't get a better game. Super Bowl rematch. I am fired up, and it's Thursday afternoon. Let's go.
Tom Brady, LFG, let's go. I'll leave the F out, the LG, right. Let's go. All right. Thanks, buddy.
That's right.